This is a playthrough of Citadel of Blood, Ares Magazine, number 5, November 1980. I've gone ahead and separated out my map tiles. Got some monster counters here. This is the pool of heroes that I'm going to be randomly selecting my party from. And this is a pool of initiates that I'm going to be selecting from as well. And then we have some special counters, the party counter, which is going to mark our party's progress through the Citadel. Get the gateway to evil, which is the entrance to the Citadel. The hellgate, which we're looking for, and X the Unknown, who protects the hellgate. Now you may wonder how a band of adventurers could possibly sneak into this Citadel, and I'm going to show you. They're right here. They're going to be creeping along below the guard tower. For a single player game, the rules recommend using 3 heroes and 3 initiates. So the first thing I'm going to do is randomly draw 3 heroes from this pile of heroes. I guess technically I should put them in a cup, but I haven't really read their names. I really don't know what their skills are. I'm just going to mix them up in my hand here. And I'm looking away right now, and I'm pulling 3 tiles out. So the 3 heroes that I've selected randomly are Laraka, Lord Dill, and Gilith. The next thing I'm going to do is select 3 initiates. I'm going to randomly select these as well. The rules state that you can select your initiates and choose what race you want them to be, but I'm looking away. I'm not looking. I'm drawing 3. My initiates are going to be a human, a dwarf, and another human. So now I'm going to enter the character stats for our heroes, and I'm going to determine the character stats for the initiates. I've created a little character sheet here which accommodates all 6 of my adventurers, and once I fill this out, we can get started. For my 3 heroes, I simply referred to the hero characteristics chart and transferred that information. And then for my initiates, I followed the instructions in the rules, which has a much simpler chart. In this world, there are 3 suns, and one of the setup requirements is to roll to determine which sun is the predominant sun during this particular adventure. So I just rolled a 6. So the blue sun is actually the predominant sun for this entire adventure. And what that means is that the magic potential that matters for all these characters on this adventure is the 3rd one, the blue sun magic potential. So for instance, Laraka is going to have 4 spells. Lord Dill is going to have 0 because he doesn't really have any magic. Same with Gilith. John, the human initiate, is going to have 2 spells. This dwarf is going to have 0. And the human Sarah is going to have 2 spells. So I'm going to choose 4 spells, 2 spells, and 2 spells. Alright, so Laraka has Teleport, Heal, Blast, and Wrath of God. John the human has Stone to Flesh and Strength. And Sarah has Mental Attack and Ceasefire. Now that all 6 of my characters are fully created and I've chosen the marching order, it's time to enter the gateway of evil. The first thing we're going to do is randomly draw a map tile. So I'm actually not looking. And we can actually choose either side as long as the connections are appropriate. I don't think you basically, we can't use the side because we can't go straight into a room that terminates. The adventure would be over. You're not actually allowed to terminate the maze until you've discovered the hellgate. So we have to start with corridor here. If this were a room, the first thing we would do is a trap check, but it's not a room, so the party basically moves into the new segment, and then we have to check, because it's a corridor, we have to check for a wandering monster. So there would only be a wandering monster in this corridor on a roll of 1. So there is no wandering monster. We can actually choose if we want to enter either one of these doorways or continue straight through the corridor. I think the party is going to continue straight along the corridor. So we're going to go ahead and randomly choose the next tile. And so here we have a bend in the corridor, and since we chose to go straight through that corridor, we can't actually use the room tile. So we are going to, we're going to go continue through this corridor, and we're going to have it fork to the right, and then we need to check for wandering monsters again. We rolled a 4, no wandering monsters, so we continue through the corridor. We're going to have this corridor snake to the left. Roll for wandering monsters. Roll a 3, so we're good. And now we can choose to go through this doorway or continue up the corridor. So since we chose to go through the doorway, we need to, there is no room corridor. So the way I interpret the rules is we kind of go through this doorway, which actually leads to another corridor, and there is no wandering monsters. I think we're going to go north, check for wandering monsters. No wandering monsters. So now we are going to go through this corridor, or through this doorway, see what's on the other side. All right, so we have encountered a room with a feature. So first we want to check and see, first we need to check and see if the room is trapped. My dwarf initiate has the highest detrap skill, so I'm going to have the dwarf investigate. I need to roll less than or equal to. I rolled a 2, so the dwarf has successfully detrapped this room. And now we need to see if the room contains any monsters. So we roll 1d6, and on a 1 through 3, the room does contain a monster. 4, the room does not contain a monster. I'm getting pretty lucky with my rolls today. Now I can choose whether the party investigates this piece of furniture. There's a lot of things that can go wrong if you investigate a feature in a room, but really in order to find the hellgate, you need to investigate features. There is a slight chance that I will discover a mirror, and the way I interpret the rules is the only way to find the hellgate is via discovering mirrors. So I am going to investigate this feature. We're going to roll 1d6 and reference the feature table. We rolled a 6. It's a piece of furniture. We actually have discovered a mirror. Once again, super lucky with the rolls. That's great. So now let's figure out what happens when you discover a mirror. So the first mirror that the party comes across will reveal to them the level on which the hellgate is located. This is done by rolling on the mirror table and cross-indexing the result. So this is the mirror table. We rolled a 2. So the hellgate we know now is going to be located on level 2. So we need to find a staircase and get to level 2. Okay, so now we know that we need to get to level 2. When we find a staircase, we get to level 2, then we need to find another mirror, and when we find that mirror, we will do another roll on the mirror table, and we will see how many map segments away from that mirror the hellgate is. And that's basically how we discover the hellgate. So step 1, find a staircase. Step 2, find the second mirror on level 2. And then step 3, figure out how many segments away from that mirror the hellgate is. I think instead of getting farther and farther away from the entrance to the Citadel, I think I'm going to backtrack, because once we destroy the hellgate, I believe we have to exit the Citadel. So I want to kind of like explore in a tight formation around the entrance of the Citadel if possible. So I think the party is going to go back into this corridor. I think we do another check for wandering monsters. Rolled a 5, no wandering monsters, and we are going to, I think we're going to continue this way and just see if we can make a decent connection. And it looks like we can. So now we have this like kind of interesting path. We have to roll for wandering monsters on this new segment. No monsters. And now we are going to enter this doorway, hopefully into a room. We're only 3 segments from the entrance. And we actually do draw a staircase, although I'm not sure if we can legally place it. There's only one entrance to this room, so I'm going to do a little bit of research and see if this is a legal move. If it's not a legal move, then I think one lesson I've learned is try not to form these types of spaces with 2 doorways, because if we would have gone through this doorway, we absolutely could have put the staircase there, and we need that staircase to get to the second level. Yeah, so as I feared, this is not a legal movement because the doorways don't complement each other. So we kind of shot ourselves in the foot strategically. We really need to find a stairway, and now I'm going to have to throw this back in the chip pool. If we had gone this way, through that doorway, this would have been a legal arrangement, and we would have been able to go down the stairs. So live and learn. But I'm gonna play it right. Pull another one. So here we do have a room with doorways that work. So we are going to enter this room. We need to check for traps, we need to check for monsters, and then we have the option of investigating a feature in this room, which looks like a fountain. Actually, I've been doing traps a little wrong. First, you have to roll to see if there is a trap. So you roll a d6. On a 1, there is a trap. So there was no trap. And then if there was a trap, then the person that you've sent to investigate does a d-trap roll. So there's 2 rolls for traps, not 1. My bad. But anyway, I don't think that's affected anything we've done so far. So no trap. They're in the room. Now we roll for a monster check. And on a roll of 1, 2, or 3, the room contains monsters. So we roll 2d6 on the room monster table. We roll a 2 and a 4. So we have encountered harpies and we have to determine the number of them. 1d3, so half of 4 is 2, plus 2 is 4. So we've encountered 4 harpies. So the harpies are pretty weak. They have no combat bonus. They have a small number of wound points. They have no weapons. They also carry no treasure. So I could get in a fight with them, but I'm not really going to gain any treasure. I think I'd probably gain experience if I kill them, but really I'm just focused on destroying the hellgate at this point. But they are negotiators, so I can try to negotiate with them, but that may fail. I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. Gilith, the elf, has a +2 negotiate. I think they're the best negotiator. So, and the harpies have a 5 negotiation value. So I think we roll 2 dice. We've got 10, and we subtract 5. That brings us down to 5. But then we add 2, so that brings us up to 7. And then we refer to the negotiation table. So our final result was 7. It looks like the negotiation was successful. There was an agreement, and so we can go about our business. Now it's just a matter of whether we want to investigate this fountain. If we investigate this fountain, it's not going to produce any results that are going to benefit us in any way. It's not related to mirrors or stairways. I think we're going to just ignore this fountain and ignore the harpies and move on. And I actually think we're going to head back toward the entrance and explore some of these doorways right next to the entrance, which is probably what we should have done in the first place. So we're back in the hallway here. We need to check for wandering monsters. No wandering monsters. Now we're in this corridor. No wandering monsters. And now we're going to go through this doorway. Into a room. We need to check and see if it's trapped. The dwarf, Gorham, has a D-trap of 2, so he's going to check for traps. We rolled a 6, so there are no traps. We are now in the room. We need to check for monsters on a roll of 1 through 3. There are no monsters, so we are basically in an empty room here, and now we can choose which direction we want to go. So let's just continue this way. The dwarf is checking for traps. No traps. Monsters. Yes, there are monsters. The party has encountered a wight, and the wight has a combat bonus of 6, so it's pretty powerful. It's got some decent hit points, and it also has decent treasure. I think we're gonna try to negotiate with it. Gilith, the elf, has a +2 on negotiation. The wight has a negotiation value of 4, so we roll a 6, minus 4 is 2, plus 2 is 4. We go to the negotiation table, so the negotiation failed. At this point, we can attempt to bribe the monster, or we can just attack it. We don't have any money, so I think we're going to go straight to combat. This will be our first battle. All right, so the party members in the first row are going to start. So we've got John the human. He has a +2 sword. He has a combat bonus of 0, but a +2 sword. So we roll 1d6. We roll a 3, +2 sword. That gives us a 5. And so then we look on the sword. he does 1 point of damage. So that takes our white down to 6. And then we do the same with the dwarf. The dwarf has a combat bonus of 0 and a +1 axe. So 3 + 1 is 4. With the axe, 1 point of damage. And for our other human, Sarah, she's also a swords person. We rolled a 4 plus 2, that's a 6. So we look at a result of 6 on the sword. She does 1 point of damage. I really should have put Lord Dill and Gilwith out front. They have really large combat bonuses and they have weapon skills, but that's okay. I can reorganize them after this round. But I think that Laraka is going to cast a blast spell. So the blast spell costs 1 wound point on the caster, but inflicts 2 wound points on the white. We just need to see if the white is able to resist the spell. The white has a resistance value of 2. So if I roll a 1 or a 2, the white is able to resist the blast spell. I rolled a 5, so the white will take 2 damage. So on this first round of player combat, the white's hit points are basically down to 2. And now it's the white's turn to attack. And the white can only attack 1 player. So they're going to attack the dwarf. The white has a combat bonus of 6. So we roll a 2 plus 6. That's 8. He's a monster. So we look at the result of 8 for monsters. He does 1 point of damage to the dwarf, bringing the dwarf's wound points from 6. Not sure if I need to keep track of the original value, but I will. From 6 down to 5. So that's not too bad. And then we can do some reorganization if we want. So it doesn't quite sound like I can swap places. It sounds like if one of these characters were eliminated, I could move another character up into the first row, but it doesn't really mention anything about swapping places during combat. So I'm just going to leave the marching order, the combat order as is, and try to finish out this combat. So the first row is going to do another round of attacks on the white. So the white has just been killed. The fatal blow was via the dwarf's axe. Now, the white has treasure type H. We roll a 4. That's less than 6. So then we roll 2d6 to determine the number of gold marks. 7. And then for jewels, I'm only going to find jewels if I roll a 1. No jewels. And I'm only going to find a magic item if I roll a 1. No magic items. So this white had only 7 gold pieces on him. So I think the party is not going to investigate the artwork that's in that room. None of the results really get me where I need to be, which is in a stairwell down to level 2. So I'm just going to continue. And this doorway terminates in a room. Ooh, I think that's a mirror. So, but first we have to check for traps. No traps. Then we have to check for monsters. No monsters. So now the party is in the room, and that is indeed a mirror. Actually, this mirror does not do anything for us. We need to find a mirror on level 2, not another mirror on level 1. So we're going to backtrack out to this room, check for wandering monsters. No wandering monsters. And we're going to go through this doorway. And we have entered another room. We're going to check for traps. No traps. And then we have to check for monsters. We have encountered monsters. Refer to the room monster table 5-6. Wargs. 5 wargs. This is going to be a bloodbath. So I am going to try to negotiate with the wargs because I don't want to get involved in this huge battle if I don't have to. Wargs are strong negotiators, so this probably isn't going to go well. So we roll a 6, minus 6 is 0, plus 2 for our negotiation, which is 2. The negotiation fails. I think we're just going to go straight into combat. So after player combat, we have a huge hole in the front row here, and I don't think that the monsters can reorganize until after their combat. So I think the way I interpret this is only this warg can attack, and they can only attack Gilith. And then reorganization, nothing's going to happen for the party, but the wargs are going to, like, I guess, slide into formation there. Not sure if I have that exactly right, but I think so. All right, so the wargs were defeated. They actually have no treasure. Laraka has taken damage because they keep casting the blast spell, so their hit points are down to 2, which could be a problem because they're the ones with the teleport that's going to try to get them out of there. And Gilith took some damage, but other than that, everyone's in pretty good shape. So there's really no need to explore this furniture because we don't need a mirror. The only thing we need right now is a staircase to get down to level 2. So we are gonna fish on. We're gonna head through this doorway. So this is a trapdoor, but before we can even decide if we want to investigate that, we have to see if the room we just entered is trapped. We rolled a 3, it's not trapped, and then we have to see if there are monsters in that room. There are. We roll a 5 and a 1. Consult the room monster table. 5 and 1 is a chimera. So the chimera has a special attack on top of its normal attack, which is fire breath. Failing to resist that, the target will take 1 wound. Finding the correct counter in this pile of counters is a bit of a pain in the ass because they're double-sided. And I have, without flipping every single one of them over, I'm not exactly sure like where the chimera is. But I've got the stats for that monster that I just referenced this chart for. So we're going to go ahead and do battle with the chimera, who is basically going to be like right here in the middle, which is where you put 1 monster. And we're going to go from there. I kept meaning to reorder my characters. I'm just going to go ahead and allow myself that since I'm new at this game, but I've gone ahead and swapped the dwarf with the elf so I can use the ranged attack with the bow, and the dwarf is now good to go in the front row here. I could try to negotiate, but the chimera has like a +7 negotiation value. I don't even think I'm going to mess with it. I'm just going to go straight for the juggler on this one. In my first round of combat with the chimera, which I am too lazy to try to find the counter for, the chimera took several points of damage, went from 1 points of 8 down to 2, and then inflicted damage on Lord Dill, but the Lord was able to resist the special fire breath. And then we're going to go on to round 2 here. Yeah, at the very beginning of the second round of combat, the chimera is destroyed. And the treasure table, it's type I. So let's see what that's going to mean. 1d6 times 5. So 3 times 5 is 15 gold. No jewels, and 4 no magic items. So the party was able to scrounge up 15 gold from the corpse of the chimera. The party is not going to explore this trapdoor because it doesn't really offer anything to them right now, and there's the potential for a lot of carnage if things go wrong. So I think they're just going to move north through this doorway and try to find a staircase. There is no staircase. This doorway leads to a corridor. There is a wandering monster. This is the first wandering monster we've discovered. So let's take a look. 4/4. We've just stumbled onto a Minotaur. Rawr. The Minotaur is a beast. He has a lot of hit points and he has a huge combat bonus. And he is an excellent negotiator. So it's going to be hard to negotiate with him, and combat is going to be bloody. But I think I'm first going to just try a negotiation, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to actually try to bribe him, because we do have some gold now. We have enough gold to try a bribe, and I haven't used that game mechanic yet. So let's start with the negotiation. So we're going to roll 2 dice. Ooh, well, at least we got a good roll. We rolled 11, and then we are going to subtract 7. That brings us to 4 plus 2 is 6. The plus 2 is for Gilith, the elf's negotiation skills. So we look on the negotiation, a 6 or less is a failure, so we still failed to negotiate with the Minotaur. I can only imagine how that went. As far as gold goes, 22. We have 22 gold, so we could offer the Minotaur 20 gold. And let's see how that goes. He has wound points of 10 and negotiation value of 17, which puts him in this column. We only have 20 gold pieces, so we would have to roll a 0 or less, which is impossible. So we basically have to fight this dude. Alright, so in the first player round of combat, Lord Dill did a smashing job with his sword. The dwarf chipped away with his axe, and Gilith, the elf, made some progress with the bow, and now it's the Minotaur's turn to repay the favor. So Lord Dill is 9 minus 4. Lord Dill has 5 hit points left. And then we're going to go on to the second round of combat. After the second player round of combat, the Minotaur is down to 1 hit point. Now it's the Minotaur's turn. 6 again. Lord Dill is down to 1 hit point. And now we're going on to our final round of combat. I'm sure at this point the Minotaur is going to be killed. Yes, Lord Dill destroys the Minotaur. And the treasure type is JC. So I think that this is a pretty good sort of illustration of how the game works. The combat tends to drag on a little bit. I don't mind continuing to play this game, and I think I will, but I'm actually running out of time right now. So I think I'm just going to kind of snapshot where the game is right here, right now, and resume it. At this point, the party really just needs to find a staircase to get to level 2, and then find a mirror to determine how far away the hellgate is from that mirror, and then go that many sections to reach the hellgate. So there's a very specific path that needs to happen. So I think it's interesting. I like this game a lot, and I have a lot of ideas about what works really well, and a couple things I think that could work better with minor tweaks. I kind of want to finish it. It's compelling. It's fun. I like the exploration. The combat can get a little tedious and a little samey, but the exploration aspects of the game are great.